Hi, Angela Fair here. Today I want to talk about some common watercolor myths, and I'm calling these myths because these are things that people have told me over and over again that they believe about watercolor, and they're simply not true, or they don't have to be true. And we're going to start with the first one, and I'm just going to talk about why I don't believe it and why you shouldn't either. And number one is that watercolor is the hardest medium. And I have an issue with this for a number of reasons. I think when we approach something going, this is the hardest thing to master, it becomes work to us. And for many years, we fight with this concept that it's just too hard for me. And I think that's where we can allow a lot of self-doubt to creep in. If you're sitting there thinking watercolor is the hardest medium, maybe it's just not for me. Maybe I shouldn't be tackling something like this. You're going to prevent that from allowing you to pursue this truly beautiful medium. And watercolor certainly does take a different way of thinking than, say, painting with acrylics or oils. It kind of involves you reversing your approach from what you would do when you're painting in acrylic or oil. But I don't think it has to be hard. I think you can approach watercolor with a joy and a delight and a can-do attitude, and you can really grow as an artist and master a medium that and then you'll get people saying to you, watercolor is the hardest medium. How do you do it? I'm in awe of what you do. And the truth of the matter is, for me anyhow, that it was simply loving watercolor enough to keep doing it that really made a difference in my painting, helped me to grow in the medium and learn how to use it. And so if you have a desire and a love to paint in watercolor, don't let any idea that this is just too hard ever stop you from attempting it. You can do it. And just loving it enough to continue to do it is going to make you better at your craft. So I encourage you to abandon this idea that it's just too hard and embrace it. And the fact of the matter is there's something very enjoyable about giving over some of that control to the watercolor itself and just letting those happy accidents happen. Watercolor myth number 2 is that you can't erase or fix mistakes in watercolor. And this is a sort of true, sort of not true kind of thing, actually. You can fix your mistakes in watercolor very often because for me I work very wet, so I usually can have a little bit of grace period in order where I can lift out color before it dries and sets, blotting it with paper towel or whatever. You can also, generally if you're using a really good quality watercolor paper, which I always recommend, you can scrub out mistakes as well. For me, I don't look at any painting that I don't complete as a mistake. Often I will, because my goal in watercolor for myself is to be very fresh and immediate in my painting, then certainly if you start scrubbing and trying to fix stuff and control it, you're going to lose that freshness and that spontaneity. And so what I do is I learn by painting something over and over again. So I work out all those compositional details and how I'm going to paint something by painting it and painting it again and then painting it again. And so sure, I'm going to have paintings that don't turn out, that are rejects. In fact, this one behind me right here is one that is going to need another attempt. And so I don't look at them as mistakes because they are all steps of progress toward that final completed painting. Just because I haven't erased anything or covered over anything, I've set it aside and pulled out a new sheet of paper to begin my next version of that painting. And so I don't look at it as a mistake. At the same time, like I said, you can lift and scrub. Actually, Magic Eraser works really well for lifting out color off your page. And again, you are going to get a scrubbed look, so I tend to... It is a watercolor myth to say you can't erase mistakes, you can't fix mistakes. You can always make something darker or cover it over. You can, to a certain extent, lift out. And finally, every painting is a step towards your next painting. So even if you do have to abandon something, like I have, and say, you know what, that's not something I'm satisfied with, you can take what you've learned from that painting and bring it into the next painting. So yeah, there are no mistakes. Everything is growth, everything is learning. And I think it's a really important way to stay encouraged in watercolor if you take that approach and look at things that way. Watercolor myth number 3, and I don't know if this is a myth so much as just I don't know, I think we're always looking for shortcuts, and that is the question, what brush are you using? And when I'm doing demonstrations on YouTube or in my online courses, I get that question all the time. You know, I love your brush, what brush are you using? And the fact of the matter is I'm not committed to any one brand or brush. I like a synthetic brush, and I have my certain preferences, but I find that often when I'm getting that question, I think people are thinking, oh, you know, those strokes that she's making look so effortless. Her brush makes such beautiful shapes on the page, and you know, it takes a certain brush to do that. And I don't think that's true. Certainly, you're going to do better with a good brush than a craft store brush, maybe. But as long as you have a brush with a decent shape that comes to a nice point and has a bit of flex, you're going to be fine. You know, I would avoid ones that shed hair all over the pages. But that idea that it just takes that one perfect brush to get you a great quality of line in your paintings is not true. You get beautiful lines in your paintings by painting, and the more painting you do, the more you'll find your line expression that comes naturally to you when you're painting, and you'll start to have good brush control. And as well, you'll get familiar with some different kinds of brushes. You'll start to wear some out, and once you do that, you can try some different kinds and find what you like the best. But really, it's not about the brush, it's about the artist. And so it really is a myth in watercolor that there's that one perfect brush out there that you just haven't found yet. Just put in the hours, you know, love to paint, keep doing it, and it won't matter what brush you're using really in the end. And the final watercolor myth, and I would say this is a art in general myth, is that idea that I wish I was artistic, I wish I was creative. If you have the desire to create, you are creative. And I think we all have that desire. Of course, for some of us, it's going to be expressed in other ways. Some of us are musical, or my husband, for example, is a hot rod builder, and that's his art. And so don't say you're not artistic. If you have a desire to create and you exercise that desire, your artistic skills will become better. And I do believe they're skills. They are built by practicing. We all started out as kids drawing stick figures. And we all had the desire to draw stick figures and to color in coloring books and to create stuff as children. And that will continue on as you practice it. And it's when it becomes abandoned and rusty and dusty that you don't have that creative energy anymore, because it's something that needs to be fed. And if you're not feeding your creative impulses and your artistic side, you're not going to feel like it's there. So I encourage you to take that time to nurture your artistic side, to pursue creativity in some form. And don't say I can't. You can. You need to build a skill. You have a skill you need to build, and you can do it.